here, and now we have to start rolling the stem with clay. For this, we will use latex glue and of course clay. We take a small amount of clay. See what we need to do? At the very beginning of the stem of the orchid, the stem is quite thin. It goes thinner than further. Then you can do it with a little more thickening. Here it is advisable to observe that it is thin. Therefore, we will try to roll in as thinly as possible, but at the same time so that there is a smooth stem, so that the tape does not stick out, no errors are visible. We will try very hard. Look, take a small amount of latex glue. We coat firstly to the buds here and to the bends. Now, we take clay. You can wrinkle it a little to make it a little elastic. If it's been laying for a while, we make such a cake. We apply. We wrap the wire with clay. We will remove the surplus now. We will do it now. We press well with our fingers from all sides and, as it were, lower the clay, we go along the wire. All the places where we have joints between the buds, between the base of the buds, here we carefully pass everything with our fingers. We press well everywhere so that the clay grasps neatly everywhere. So, we remove the excess. So, now we need water. In order to make it all carefully, we passed wet fingers on clay with its gently smooth slight pressure, everything to be perfect. If you can't get your fingers up somewhere, you can use a silicone brush. Let's say you need to smooth it out between the buds here. It is difficult to crawl there with your fingers. So I use a silicone brush. So, that's all. We carefully roll to this gap with clay. Now after drying, at least this moisture will be removed. The clay will wind up and we will already glue the next bud right here at the junction where we have already made a bend. So after the dinner has dried up, we need to screw the next bud. Let's see, well, again, small. Here we have two buds in principle, small in size, but there are darker ones. The first buds are the darkest and then lighter. This one is darker. I have already bent it inward as I did with the previous bud. Now we need to screw it on. To do this, I will again bend the wire a little at an angle. I take the tape. First I wrap the wire a little like this. And now we need, where the corner is the joint, or rather not the joint, of course, the bending angle, where we bend, where we will now fasten. And what else needs to be done? Cut off excess wire again. I cut it at this distance approximately. Now, I apply it carefully. So fell off, now I'll screw it again. So, at the top of the curve, see the bud looking inward. Face the stem. Right here. We hold the wire with our finger like this and wrap it around, fasten it. We do all this carefully so that nothing goes anywhere. So, if necessary, hold it in this way and fasten it to the end of the wire. All screwed up. Now our further actions. Again, we take clay with you, and it is necessary to roll it in before bending. I run in. Well, come on, now I'll show you how I do it. For this I take clay, latex glue. And now we will again distribute a small amount of clay over the stem. So, we coat with latex glue, especially where the bud is joined with the wire. Here. And now as the amount of clay carefully, we with you will be evenly distributed. Look, I make such a cake I wrap around the wire. First, with the help of my fingers, I distribute evenly dry. Further it's over, we will wash it all up so that it is neat. With such pressing movements, we lower the clay gently down the stem. Watch carefully to distribute. So, we reach the bands and remove the excess. Here is the band in the wire. They reached him and removed the excess clay. Now, we take water and gently wash the joints with our fingers. See, yes? We need a smooth transition so that these joints are not visible. We go like one stem. It shouldn't be visible that here the joining of clay is going on. To that extent, we must carefully wash everything so that nothing can be seen. So, here we go through carefully. That's all. If necessary, you can use a damp cloth to remove excess moisture so that it does not interfere. Make sure that it does not go over the buds, so that the toning does not deteriorate. Handle the water carefully so that nothing spoils and is good. That's all. In this way, we leave to dry again. It takes some time, 15-20 minutes. The clay dries up and glue the next bud. We do the same, and we need to glue all 5 buds. After gluing 5 buds, I will show you what happened and how we will screw the flower already. Well, it's time to attach the flowers. Look, I glued on a few more buds, rolled them in. I got a little dry here. Now the next step after the buds is the fastening of flowers. Look, what did we do with the flowers? On this branch, I will attach 4 flowers. On the second branch, on the same one, I will have 3 flowers. In total, I will have 7 flowers on 2 branches. How are we going to fix them? Look, how did we do toning? First, we tinted the lightest flower we did. Light tint. Here's a lightly colored flower. Further, the flower comes in a slightly more intense color, with more pronounced shades of blue. Further, more colored. We increase the intensity of the color. This one is even more colored. And the last flower to be found is blue. Almost completely blue. The most intense color. So we will fix it in this way. The very first light colored, then a slightly more intense color, saturated and completely blue. This is how we will attach the flowers in turn. How are we going to do this? I'll show you. And of course I will show you on a sample of our lightest flower. Let's use the tape again. For starters, we'll screw it on. In principle, it is not necessary to bend the wire here. Let it be flat already. We will then create an additional bend when we attach the branches to the pot. Then we will bend to get a beautiful shape of the stems. Look, what are we doing? We need to bend a little. Make a bend here, curved, little. And here we just bend the wire. We do it at right angles, and now we will attach it to the wire. Look, we apply so that the color looks up. Then again we will give the desired bend, the desired shape. Gently hold it with your finger like this. Although it moves out a little, now we'll fix it all. Look. Gently fasten the tape with tape. And then whatever moves out, we fix it with glue. Because after all, in order to roll in clay, we need the flour to hold well, not to move out. You see, it still moves. This wire. To keep it good, we'll use super glue. And so, look, bending a little. So where the flower is attached to the stem, put a small drop of glue and gently press and hold well. We press down. We are fixing. It is not enough to attach the tape, you need to fix the flower stem itself. At the same time, we hold on well. This is what happens, see? And now it is necessary, probably we will leave it to dry a little, since the clay is still quite soft after running in. Let it dry out a little, so that the flower is well fixed and does not move out. Next, we will roll the wire again, and we will roll it at a distance of about 4 centimeters. Now I will try it on. Yes, it is 4. Maybe even a little less, about 4 centimeters. So that there are approximately flowers at the same distance. That's all. We leave, dry, and then roll in clay. After the stem with the orchid is a little stuck together. It doesn't stagger. Now we need to run it in again, somewhere at a distance of 4 centimeters. Next is the stem of the orchid. For this we take clay. We do everything the same as before, just now with flowers. So, few, now a little more piece. So, I mix well so that it is plastic enough. Now we will roll in with latex glue. I gently coat it. Make sure that there is no excess glue, because the excess is not needed anyway. Everything is needed in moderation. We missed a little and that will be enough. It is also impossible without glue, otherwise the clay will not hold well. We don't need a lot of glue either, because if the glue gets on the stem, on the trunk, then after drying it will shine. Therefore, it will not be very nice. Therefore, we try to remove the glue. Even if it gets here, we remove it with a damp cloth. So, pressing gently with our fingers, we spread the clay down. We try to keep the thickness of the stem, here and here, so that the thickness goes evenly. There is no difference. You know, it's thicker here, thinner here. We try to make the same thickness. Or how can I do it? So that the thickness increases slightly, but not much. We do not need a large thickness of the stem. After all, in life, in nature, they're quite thin. So, we remove the excess. The distance of such a segment will be quite enough. Now I will measure how much it turned out. Somewhere 4 centimeters probably. Yes, 4 centimeters. So now we take water and, wetting our fingers, we gently walk over the clay. First, we carefully smooth out all these joints between the transition of the dried clay and the one that we have already applied. And where the stem with the orchid is attached. And so we go between the fingers. Look, smooth movements, rolling such, stretching and stroking. That is, we need to make an equal stem. Gently without pressing hard so that there are no flaws, there is no wave. We don't need a wave either. Everything needs to be very smooth and beautiful. So, here's what happens. Now, we take a damp cloth and remove excess water here and here. Now you need to hang upside down like this. Unfortunately, the place doesn't really allow me. Look, we hang like this upside down, down with butts, and let it dry up. We make a hook on the wire, hang it up. I think every house has a place to hang it. In any case, there are handles, curtains, for example. You can think of some kind of adaptations. Where to hang? I have handles on the cupboards. And let it dry up. The next step I will be fixing the same flowers. Again, I want to remind you, we fix flowers depending on the color. Light, then a little darker, then even more saturated and darkest color, the most colored flower. You follow this rule and you will get a wonderful flower arrangement and a wonderful twig. Further, I will not show the process of fastening, because further, the process is absolutely the same. I will then attach these flowers, screw them, roll the stem. Do the same thing. The main thing is to observe the color. The alternation of a light flower saturated, more saturated, and already fully colored. That's all. Now we leave it to dry. So, well, now I will show what we still have to do with the orchid's sprig. Look, I have collected flowers. Here I have 4 flowers. They are still drying up in principle, but while they are drying up, so as not to waste time, I will show how we will make the shamrocks. The scales that are at the stems of the buds are color. How are we going to do them? Now I will crawl and show you. I took light clay, light green. The shade is different from the stems. Basically, this is the same color as we made the buds. The same color is green. Look. Oh, what will we do? You need to take a small amount. Now I will show you on a couple of buds. And we will continue to follow the same principle. I pinch off a small piece of clay. So, I roll a ball out of it. Quite small, let me even measure it. What size it turned out? Not even 4 millimeters. 3 millimeters somewhere. Now I'm making a small drop out of it. And I lightly press this droplet with my fingers, and like this I press with the stack a little. It turns out this is a drop, a little flattened. Now I will glue this drop using latex glue. I'll show you on the buds. Let's start with the top one. We coat the base with glue, the place where we will glue. Now we take this droplet. We apply it carefully. See how. And now we need to wash it with water. Now I'll show you how we have to do it. So, I will use a silicone brush for this case. You can, of course, use your finger, but I feel comfortable with a silicone brush. With a silicone brush, it's convenient to crawl up and do it quite neatly. Look, first I'll wet it a little and gently. Make sure that excess water does not enter, we wash this joint where we glued. So I go through with a silicone brush. Wash. Desirable from all sides. To keep everything very neat. Then we either correct it with our finger or we can take a damp cloth. From the reverse side, well look, everything is fine here too. Here is such a scale at the base of the bud. Next, let's do it on the second bud here. Generally from all sides. We will make the same at flowers. Such scales should be found everywhere. Let's make another one. Again, I take a small piece of clay. I roll the ball. I make a drop of it. I press it gently with my fingers. I make a depression, a notch like this. And again with glue. So let me show you this on this side so that it is more convenient for you to show, so that you can see everything on this side. We coat again. With glue, do not overdo it so that it does not shine, so that it will not be visible later. We put on the place and mist carefully. We press like this from all sides, wrapping our fingers around. Now, I take a silicone brush and gently wash it off. Walking along the edge. Excess water must be removed immediately. And then I get an extra drop right away. I remove it immediately because the droplet can slip and fall on the flower, and we do not need this, of course. The tinting will be damaged. Gently smoothing movements. So now I'll show you from the other side. It's inconvenient to keep it that way. So look what happens. Basically, look, everything is fine. All washed away. There will be no errors here. When it dries up, everything will be perfectly smooth. This is how the second such shamrock scale turned out. Well, I will not show it further on every bud, on every flower. The same thing we do, we continue. Do the same thing. And then, after complete drying, it is advisable to leave it for a day. First, the stem dries out completely so that it's very dry and hard, so that the flowers do not move, because the clay is soft and it's still in motion. We turn over like this. Head down, roughly speaking, we hang. You can, of course, dry it completely and then glue the scales. Here, most importantly, I showed you how to do it. We hang upside down. We leave it to dry completely and then we will tint the stem completely. In some places we will go through tint and we will already fix it in the pot. I'll show you how I will do this, how we will form the composition itself together with the leaves and together with the branches of the orchid. How do we arrange the flowers? How do we make the right band? All this will be after complete drying, after the branches dry. It stood the night, hung upside down. What needs to be done? Finish tinting. I will finish toning in blue. In principle, we would like the color green, the ones that we need a green stem, light green shamrocks, flakes, which are located near the buds and flowers. Now we need, just slightly not too intensely, but just walk with this blue color along the scales and the base of the stems. We'll even touch on the stems a little. I again do this with pastels so that the color is the same as on the buds. To be different, I certainly want to do it with oil paint. I'll do it with pastels. And the color is much better this way. I think it will be transmitted. To make it match the color. So look, be carefully tint on all sides. Do not overdo it so that the color is not too saturated. You can go a little on the trunk itself. So, then after toning, we will hold it over the steam for a while. Firstly, so that the pastel grasps, and secondly, to remove this excessive velvety, because on the trunk and on the shamrocks it's not needed at all. Therefore, we will hold over the steam, firstly to fix, and secondly, over the steam you can hold it more intensely to give a slightly shiny look. To remove dullness. So, here you can even go to the stem of a flower, not reaching the middle. So now, we do the same with all the other colors. And here I also have 2 flowers left. I will also capture. I'll do a little tint. Since the orchid is blue, it has this blue hue almost everywhere, all over growth, starting from the buds themselves and ending with the stem, on which the flowers themselves already grow. Here's what happens, look. Now I will hold over the steam for a while. Next I will create the band we need and show how I will arrange the orchid branches, one and the second. We have 2 branches. I'll show you how I will position and in which direction they will. Look what happens. I have already bent one branch and will now show it using the example of the second branch. How to do it right. My one branch will look like this, in one direction, and the second branch in the other direction. I made a slight bend and straightened the flowers, curved in the direction I needed, in this way. This is the view from the back side. Here is a view from the other side, what a bend. So now I will show how I will do it using the example of the second branch. I need to bend this branch to the right, so I will now do my best to be careful. Although this clay is quite elastic, I mean even after running in, it must be done carefully so that this clay does not burst anywhere, so that there are no cracks. Therefore, now I will make a slight bend of the branch to the side. Now what am I doing? We can touch up the buds a little. So I'll remove it so that you can see it well. Look, you can bend a little. Correct. So now, see what we do. We omit this flower below. So we unfold this carefully. All this is done easily in principle, because our frame is a wire in principle. The flowers bend quite easily. We are turning this flower. They should look at us either to the right side or simply horizontally. Like this. In this way. Now let's see what happens. Look, I bend the flowers, and I think that the normal version is obtained. Now I will direct the camera a little further so that it can be seen. In this way, look, I bend the arcs and this is what happens. Corrected flowers a little. You can also do them in different directions. In principle, it is desirable that they look in the same direction. The composition itself will look more interesting. When we put it like this, if we fix it in the pot, this is how the branches will be located. This is my idea. You can arrange it in different ways. Absolutely, the way you like it. And now what do we need to do? Will I show you how we'll fix these branches, how we will insert into the pot, and of course fix the leaves.